Hello everyone and welcome back to another very interactive chess game from the Qatar Masters Open Chess Tournament from 2023. This is also an up-to-date chess game and a pretty interactive chess game. So in this chess game we have Gregory Kaidanov again with the black pieces, and if you watch this chess game against Van Forest, he defeated his opponent, his much younger opponent, and not just younger but much more higher rated opponent in a spectacular way, in a spectacular fashion. And in this chess game his opponent was Magnus Carlsen himself, no other than the legend Magnus Carlsen, who was 28-39 in this chess game, much higher rated than Gregory Kaidanov and much younger. So we know that Kaidanov is 64 years old and he did some amazing things, and let's see what happened. Did he also defeated Magnus Carlsen just the way he defeated Van Forest? So let's see. Magnus Carlsen had the white pieces in this chess game. So he starts the game with d4, we have d5, bishop to c4, and we have the good old London system. c5 and then e3, knight to c6, and we have the typical pyramid setup of the London system. Knight to f6, knight to d2, e6, knight from g to f3, and capturing the pawn, e takes on d4, knight to h5, bishop to e3, bishop to d6, bishop to d3, chasing the bishop, and also targeting on g2. So capturing the knight, and then after bishop takes on f4, Magnus Carlsen castled, also Kaidanov castled, rook over, bishop to d7, knight up, pushing the pawn and defending on c5, queen to e2, g6, a4, f6, and then bishop to b5, queen to c7, and finally a5. And in this position we have rook over to e8. Well, if capturing the pawn, actually that is not a good idea because of knight to c5. And that's a perfect spot for the knight, a perfect parking spot, both attacking the bishop and also aiming the e-pawn. So in this position we have rook over and g3 after defending the bishop, capturing the pawn, and then c4. So basically Magnus Carlsen wants to open some lines, and the queen is getting in. Well, basically the e-pawn is pinned, so is the knight. So if moving the knight, then capturing the queen. So queen to d6 and rook is getting in, defending the b-pawn, and Magnus Carlsen played a very cool move. He played knight to c5, sacrificing the knight. He made his calculations perfectly, and this was actually a very dynamic and a very good move. So we have knight takes on d4, not accepting the sacrifice. If capturing the knight, then capturing back. Black has to defend the queen, and where is the queen going? If queen to d5, then exchanging the queens and simply capturing the knight. And after bishop takes on c6, rook takes on c6, rook takes on b2, and then rook to d1, and also attacking the d-pawn. And in this position white is slightly better, and black's chances for drawing this chess game is actually not unrealistic. It is possible, but maybe against Magnus Carlsen it is not so realistic, of course. And in this position you might also consider what happens if queen to c7, then simply capturing the knight. And if capturing the bishop, then simply capturing the pawn, and this is forking the king and the bishop. So after queen to f7, simply capturing the bishop, and even in this variation white is slightly better. But slightly better, it is not completely winning for white or something. So as you can see, this b-pawn is hanging, but white is creating this pass pawn. It doesn't look very appetizing for black. Okay, so in the real chess game we have knight to c5. These were some of the calculations of Magnus Carlsen. This was some grandmaster thinking. So nothing so out of the ordinary as well. So not capturing the knight, knight takes on d4, knight takes on d4, and then queen takes on c5. Rook to a7, you can see that Carlsen is invading the 7th rank, and we have defending the bishop. Of course, in this position, if capturing the bishop, then queen takes queen. So this is why first rook to a7. So defending the bishop, and then we have b4 by Magnus Carlsen asking a question. But if bishop takes on b5, then simply capturing on e6, and this is also slightly better for white, not if queen takes knight, because if queen takes knight, then queen to e7, and black is getting checkmated. You can only prolong the checkmate, but you can't defend the checkmate. Black is getting checkmated, and that would be a terrible blunder, of course. So b4, and then exchanging the queens, and the e-pawn is pinned. So rook over defending, and b5, bishop to c8. Actually, interestingly, in this position, b5 was not a good move. Simply capturing the e-pawn should have been considered, but with b5, Magnus Carlsen is creating a beautiful spot for his knight on c6. So bishop to c8, and then knight to c6. After defending the rook, we have rook to c7. This is so positional. Well, simply capturing the e-pawn with the knight would be easily winning for white. That would be winning enough, but this is also winning. So in this position, I think rook takes bishop, if I'm not mistaken, is possible, simplifying the game. And if rook takes rook, then bishop takes on e6, forking the king and the rook. So rook takes rook, and white is much better. So bishop to d7, rook to a1. The other rook is going to join the 7th rank, and Carlsen is invading the 7th rank even more, infiltrating on the 7th rank. So this doesn't look very good. After bishop takes, pawn takes, Carlsen is simply creating a pass pawn. So attacking the bishop, defending the bishop, and then b5, a desperate move. But in this position, you can see that, this is a pretty difficult position. Well, the bishop is defending on b4, but this is pretty difficult. So white is going to play maybe rook to b7, and white can push the c-pawn. And black can't actually easily defend that, because if you move the rook, then bishop takes on e6. So we have b5, a desperate move, and then bishop takes on b5. Rook to c5, and interestingly, the material is even, but of course, Carlsen has the upper hand because his name is Carlsen. Not just because of that, but because he has actually a pass pawn, and his rooks are looking so much more active, and black is looking like he's in the back foot. So bishop to c4, targeting the pinned pawn, bishop to d6, defending, and black actually can't capture the c-pawn, because if rook takes on c6, excuse me, then bishop to b5 is going to be a skewer. So in this position, I'm pinning the pawn, and then, well, let me demonstrate that. This is just simply game over. So king to h8, and then bishop takes on e6, and this was a very strong move by Magnus Carlsen. We have rook to e7, and, well, sorry, that's not the variation. After bishop takes on e6, rook to e7, but if capturing the bishop, then rook to a8, and this time black has a back rank problem. Checkmate, there is no defense. So in this position, we have rook to e7, but even in this position, if you capture, then this is also going to be a skewer, a forking. Sorry, this is forking, and this is losing for black as well. So rook to e7, and simplifying the game, but in this position, Magnus Carlsen has a very strong move. Can you see that move? What would you do in this position? Actually, it is pretty simple. Did you see the move? Maybe defending the c-pawn comes to mind, but actually in this position, white is winning material. Can you see how? It is very simple again. Okay, so Carlsen played rook to a8, that's check, only sensible move. and then pinning the bishop. Well, in this position, black is either losing the bishop or the rook. Actually, can you see why? So we have capturing the pawn and giving up the bishop. But in this position, if defending the bishop like this, then c7 and the c-pawn is going all the way. You can stop c8, promoting the queen, sacrificing the rook, bishop takes rook, and that's game over. So in this position, we have rook takes on c6, and that's all she wrote. After rook to f7, Gregory Kaidanov, who fought until the end, lost the game. He resigned after rook to f7 at move 44. Actually, it was a very nice performance by Gregory Kaidanov. So let me show you the possible continuation. If king to g8, then rook takes on f6 with check. And of course, if king to g7, then rook to f7 check, moving the king, and then you can also defend the bishop. Let's say bishop to a2 or something, easily winning for white. And in this position, after rook to f7, Kaidanov resigned, and if king to e8, that is probably even worse because of bishop to d7 is going to fork the king and the rook, and if king takes on f7, then capturing the rook. Okay, so what do you think about this chess game? I hope that you have enjoyed watching this chess game. Kaidanov defeated Van Forest, but he was, of course, he played with Magnus Carlsen, and Carlsen is extremely strong, but he was not so lucky this time, of course, against Magnus Carlsen. It didn't happen this time, but it was still, nevertheless, a very beautiful chess game, and I hope that you have enjoyed by watching this chess game, and I hope to see you next time. So stay safe, take care, and bye-bye.